Welcome again to the complete free Flutter course presented by yours truly, Ovidus Mazuro. Now, if you guys have been following along, you remember that last time we built this little text editing thing so we can change the default starting time for the timers. Then we also did a lot of other things previously. We made the stopwatch work, we made the timer work, and a lot of things like that. But we do still have quite a lot of individual pieces left to build. Specifically, I would like a pause functionality, I'd like a reset functionality and that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go ahead and build all that stuff. Now, a few things. First, I would actually challenge you guys to go ahead and do that by yourselves first, because we've covered most of the most important parts. We've looked at how to do the start function. So pausing, resetting, it's going to be much simpler now that we have the other pieces done. So first of all, go ahead and pause the video and try to do it by yourself first. And when you come back, we'll do it together. Okay, I hope you paused. I hope you tried doing it by yourself first, but if not, that's also fine. Okay, so the other thing I was going to mention was normally before recording these videos, I actually go through and build out the functionality we're doing so it's fresh in my memory. But for these particular ones, I have not done that. The reason being, I think they're going to be fairly simple, but things have a habit of becoming much more complex. So maybe, yeah, maybe this won't go so well, but I'm not too worried. Okay. So let's start with void pause over here. So I already have the function. So far, the only thing it's doing is it's saying if TSW is running, then I'm going to stop that. And that's okay, but that's not actually complete because I'm going to need to stop this this function here. You know, I don't want this to keep going. Actually, in fact, it's even fine if it keeps going, to be honest. It doesn't really matter. But, well, I'm going to pause it anyway because I don't want the memory leak. So I'm just going to do t.cancel over here. And what that's going to do is select my timer here, which is what I used in periodic update display string, and it's going to stop that. So does that. Now in the unpause, all we have to do, so I'm already starting it, and then I can say t dot, and let's see if there's a start or anything like that. There isn't, so we can just copy this. And again, I haven't run all this beforehand, so I'm not 100% sure if we have to restart the timer over here, and if we do, how we would go about doing that. So then we're into the reset function, void reset, so we already have that. And again, I need to cancel my timer, so that's fine. And this is fine for the most part. There is one more thing I need, which is a void dispose function. And with getX, I do not override this because whatever I'm extending, the getX controller does not have a dispose function of its own, which normally most widgets do. And what I'm going to do in the dispose function, this is the stuff which, the cleanup I need to do. So for example, if my timer is still running, I need to stop that. Also, my text editor controllers, I need to close those. So minutes input controller dot value dot, there should be a close or something like that. Clear. It's not clear because that's just going to empty them. Dispose, there we go. And also seconds input controller dot value dot dispose, like that. So that's fine. And we're going to have to call this somewhere. Now, if you read the getX documentation, it says it takes care of this stuff for us. So I'm actually quite curious if it's going to do it automatically in OBX, because since I'm not overriding it, I don't see where it's calling it, but maybe it has its own algorithm to find out whatever things like these are still running and it closes them. but I'm not 100% sure actually. I'm not the one who designed getX. There is also a different widget we can use instead of that, but we'll get to that later. So that should be it, but let's start building out the rest of it to kind of see if it's working or not, and we'll continue with the timer for now. So I'm going to go to my timer screen, and here I have my play button. What I want to do is go into this section where I have my container. So this is what I would see if I was watching everything, if the timer was running. So that would be this part, like this. I'm in the wrong section, aren't I? Yeah, because that was a lot longer than I thought. Okay, so this is what I was looking for, which is just this text here, because I want to have a pause button right here. So I'm going to control-click, control-dot, wrap in widgets, and I'm going to actually Control-Z, because instead I want to wrap it in a column. That's going to change this to children automatically. And I'm going to wrap this in an expanded. The reason I want an expanded is so that I can give it the correct proportions. So wrap with widget, expanded, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to use for now, but let's try flex 1, and another one here, expanded, flex 1, and normally we end up changing that afterwards. And here I'm going to give it, no, I don't need the container, do I? I'm going to have a pause button, but this doesn't exist yet. And the pause button will have some kind of onPressed. And the onPressed will be state.pause, like that. Okay, so now I'm going to right click on widgets, new file, pause underscore button dot dot. And of course I'm creating it here separately because I'm going to have to use the same one in my stopwatch screen. So I am PM for my material, then STL for stateless widget, pause button, like this. And this is going to take I'll just use a gesture detector. Although I could use icon buttons, generally I prefer, you know what, actually I will use an icon button. And this takes, of course, the icon somewhere. I can't find it. It doesn't matter. It takes an icon, and that's going to be icon. So that's going to be icon widget in which we have icons dot, and I'm going to use pause circle outline so we can see it here. We have a few different options as well. For the size, we have to set it inside the icon button itself rather than inside here. So icon size, let's try 200 for now. That's going to be too big. Let's try 100. And on pressed is going to be whatever I pass back, some kind of callback, which of course means I need a final function callback here. And then control click, create constructor for final fields. I'm about to do this. Save it. And I forgot to give it a color. So this is going to be a color of theme.of context dot primary color. So that's going to be the white color. And that's fine. So now I need to import this. And here I need to get rid of this onPressed because I called it callback, but I should really be, no, I called it, that was the wrong widget. I was gonna say I called it callback, but then I was seeing onPressed. So yeah, I'm gonna call it onPressed. Really, I should have called it onPressed from the beginning. Reason being, I want it to be the same as one of the Flutter widgets. I want it to be very easy for myself to actually use this, so I don't need to learn how to use the pause button because it just comes naturally if it's done the same way Flutter would do it. So that's fine. Let's try. I haven't closed something. I didn't save something, that's why. So now when we, look at that, when I pause it, that's great. See, it does that correctly. But then you can see this thing keeps going. So I've paused the timer, but it's still refreshing that display string every time. So this is something I mentioned, which I wasn't 100% sure if just canceling the timer is going to do it, or if I need to actually cancel this. So I need to double check how to do this. In fact, I think I can do something like var and it's going to be a timer. In fact, I should just be able to do it like this, right? T equals, that should be fine. I'm not sure if I can use this in the same place. I might need to create a different timer. And there we go. So by setting t equal to this value, I was able to actually stop this from running. So right now, guys, you are seeing some real developments. This is what it's like. We don't always know the answers 100% correctly. Sometimes we have to guess a little bit. Sometimes we have to try different things. Okay, so there's that. And now what I want to do, so there's also some cosmetic changes. I think this is too high. I think this is too big. So I'm going to change this to 50, like this. 50 is too small. And maybe I don't want it to be the outline. Pause, circle filled. Let's try like this. Nah, I don't like it. Back to the outline. Let's try 80. Okay, that's fine. The other thing I can do is give it a final int size and set this equal to size. And this dot size here. Why is this giving me an error? Because it's a double. So back in my timer screen now, I can give it a size of 80. So that shouldn't change anything. But the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to do the same thing right here in my play button. Final double size. And this dot size right here. So now I can use size because I want to have a ternary operator and say if it's paused like this, I want to show the play button but to be small, the same size as this. Whereas if it's, you know, if it's the initial state, I want it to be the big play button instead. So where was I? It's difficult to talk and code at the same time. Mine is gone. Seriously, where was I? Yeah, I was going to update this because now my play button, and I'm actually going to make Control D to select the next one as well. Go to this side at required because I want both of these and it shouldn't work without them. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'll add a comma at the end here. Control Shift I to format them. So I added a comma to make it format correctly. Control D to select both, and then at required. What this is going to do is make sure I always pass in these two, and if I don't, it's going to give me an error because that widget will not build correctly without both of them. So now it's giving me a warning here because it doesn't have the size, and the size should be 200 when it's not running. And if we go back to the bottom, so here I have my pause button. What I can do instead is say, let me check how I made the state. I have my is running. So that means I'm also going to have to change my is running here. So when I pause it, I'm going to have is running dot value equals false. And But see, now it's going to get more complicated, because when I change that, it's going to change it back to the play button, which is not what I wanted. So as a result, I'm going to have to change this is running to is started. And this is going to be a RX ball, but it's not important. And it's going to be a false, like that. And started.value equals true, because now I need these to be two separate values. When I pause it, I need is running to be false, but I need is started to still be true. So when I unpause it, is running is gonna change to true, but is started is gonna stay true the entire time. It's not gonna change. However, when I reset it, I'm gonna need is running dot value to be equal to false, but also is started dot value equals to false. Now I'm gonna have to change both of them. So going back into my timer screen, I'm gonna have to change this one from is running to is started. And back down here in my expanded, where my pause button is, I'm going to say state.isRunning question mark, and if it is running, I want my pause button like this. But if it's not running, I want the play button. And on my play button, I'm going to give it non-pressed of state.unpause and a size of 80. I'm also going to give it another comma here. And I forgot to use that value. So now when I refresh it, I'm not 100% sure that the unpause is going to work, because I'm not sure if I have to restart the timer in a different way. So this is working. And when I pause, so this changes to a play button. This stops going. When I press play, it's going correctly. I'm honestly shocked. I'm surprised. I wasn't expecting it to work. But it is working, so there's that. When you've been coding for a while, you're going to get to these kind of situations, because code almost never works the first time you write it. But as you get better, you stop making so many bugs, but you still expect to make bugs. And then things work and you're shocked that they're working. But yeah, I hope that's something you guys will experience soon as well. Another thing I want to do here is I want to make this this text to be gray when it's paused, so it's a bit more evident. So I'm gonna find where I have that here and do style theme.of context. This is all fine. Dot copy with. So you guys will remember from last time, what copy with is going to do is take whatever I have here, but allow me to change certain properties. So I'm going to do color, and I'm going to say state.isRunning.value. So if it's running, then I want it to be white. Theme.of context dot headline, no, dot primary color. So that's exactly what it is currently. If it is running, don't change anything. But if it's not running, then I want it to have the accent color like this. And refresh. So there you go. Now you can see that when it's paused, it has that gray color, so it's more evident what's happening. Running, not running. So personally, I think that looks much better. And then we can make some different modifications. For example, I think this is too high up now. So yeah, if I have my flex one, where it says here, instead of, I'm going to change this to a container rather than a center, because I want access to that alignment property. And I'm going to align it to the bottom center, see how that looks. So what do we think? I think it's better, but I also want this text to be much, much bigger. I don't really like how that looks. So I'm going to go into my main.dart, because that's where I have all my theme data. and change my headline 1 from a font size of 40 to 75. What do we think? I could even make it bigger. But no, I think 75 is fine. I'm going to leave it as that. I'm not 100% sure if I want it to be semi-bold like this, so let's try. I'm not sure about this one. I like it both ways. I could try W500, but I don't think that my current... I think this is going to be the same as W600. Yeah, depending on which fonts you have, sometimes you have like W500, W600 as different font weights, but some fonts, like the one I'm using, apparently doesn't have a difference font for W500, W600, so both of them go to this bold, this amount of boldness, or whatever you want to call it. So I think I'll leave it like this. I think when it's not bold, it's a bit too small, so that's fine. Going back to my timer screen, I think that this button is a bit too low. I personally would like it to be a bit higher. So what we can do is I'm thinking the easiest way of doing this. I'm going to say container, child, and then this. And again, the reason I'm using the container is so I can have access to padding and alignments, because I'm going to give an alignment of alignment dot top center, but this is going to be too close in my estimation. So now I want to give it some kind of padding. So for padding, I'm going to give it an edge inset dot only, and you'll notice I'm not using const this time, and that's for a very specific reason. And I'm going to give it a padding of top of media query dot of context dot size dot height, and let's try 0.1, see how that looks. It's interesting that it jumps. I would not expect that, so I need to look at my pause button versus my play button. So here I'm using a gesture detector, whereas here I'm using an icon button. I really need it to be the same. And in fact, what I can do is pull this out even further so that I don't get the strange behavior. So I'm going to make a new widget called, I don't know, action button, or just custom button dot dot here. And I'm going to copy all of this, and I'm going to give it an extra property, which is going to be a final icon. And it's going to be called custom button at required this the icon here. Then here I'm going to use whatever icon I pass in. Just give me an error because data. So this needs to be icon data. And honestly, I'm not 100 icon data here. I'm not 100% sure how I'm gonna get this. So we're gonna have to see how it goes. So that's my custom button, and that's going to replace the pause and the play buttons. So going back into .main.dart, timer screen, find my play button. This is going to be replaced with my custom button, which of course I need to import. Click, import, fix. I can't organize it while this is broken, but I'll do that afterwards because I want to be able to copy this. State.start, size 200, and the icon is icons.play circle outline. Now, another question would be, do I want people using this to actually need to type this in, because there could definitely be an argument to me saying I prefer it to be play button and pause button. So I don't need to give it the icon. I want it to be the same throughout my app. I don't want to run the risk of people changing this up. So the other thing I could do actually is not use this, but in my play button, I could return a custom button like this and give my custom button, let's import this, a onPressed of whatever gets passed in here, and a size of whatever gets passed in, and an icon of icons dot play circle outline. And by doing this, I no longer need to remember to pass in different icons. Similarly, I can go to my pause button and do the same thing. Instead of passing in an icon button and all this stuff, I can pass in a custom button here, which I need to import, and give it an onPressed of onPressed, a size of size, and an icon of icons dot, what was I using? Play, pause, circle outline, like this. Okay, and you'll notice that using custom button compared to icon button, I'm not actually changing all that much. However, it is going to make sure that my play button and my pause button are controlled by the same thing behind the hood. So I should no longer see that awkward thing, right? Remember before, because I was using a gesture to text on one of them and an icon button on the other, when I was switching between them, they were jumping position, which is definitely not the behavior I want. I don't want a button to change where it's located. I mean, that doesn't make sense. So by extending custom button, I'm now able to make these have more similarities. I'm able to have them behave in a more expected or similar ways. So now when we look at this, what do we think? It's okay. When I look at it like this, especially this bottom part, I feel like this gray is not quite dark enough, because it's not as evident as it should be that timer is selected, whereas the other two are not selected. So what I'm going to do is go into my main.dart, wherever I have that, and modify the accent color to be white. Let's try 38. Maybe that's okay. We kind of have to balance this out, because on the one hand, I want it to be dark enough so it's obvious it's not selected. But on the other hand, I don't want it to be so dark that I can't read it. I can imagine if my grandmother was reading this, well, she wouldn't know how to use her smartphone. I could imagine if somebody else's grandmother was reading this, she might have difficulty seeing the gray because it's too dark. So we do kind of need to balance those out, but I think this looks a bit better. So I'm going to leave like that. I'm just checking. Yeah, and now by changing that color, and I can really see that change when I click, it's evident what's happening. Because before I was thinking maybe I need to add some kind of text, some red text over here which says paused. But now when I see it like this, I don't feel that's necessary at all. The other thing I might want to do is I might think this is still a bit too high, and I suspect that this might happen. So I'm going to go here and choose 3 and 2. And this is too much. So let's choose 5 and 4. Because when I had it as the same number, it didn't quite sit well with me. I didn't think it was quite perfect. I want this to be a bit bigger than this one. We're just going to play around with the numbers till we like what we see. This is better, but now I feel maybe this is too big, so I can change this to 0.08. Now I feel I want this to be a tiny bit higher. Maybe 6.5. Try that. Yeah, I think this looks better. And of course, it's entirely up to you if you want to move this higher, lower, whatever you personally think looks best. Yeah, this looks good. Another thing I want you to notice, in fact, we'll get into that afterwards. Let's finish with what we're doing here for now. This looks fine. Now let's do the reset button. I want my reset button to be up top over here. So I'm gonna go into my main.dart first, because this debug banner, it was fine until now, but now that I want my icon button over there, it's not gonna look correct, is it? So I'm gonna go to my material app and say show debug, in fact it's debug show checked mode banner to false. That's gonna get rid of this. And now the way I have pause button, play button, I'm gonna make a new one, which is gonna be my reset button.dart. And I'm just actually gonna copy paste my play button and change the icon play circle outline to, I think there's a reset. I can't remember. Rewind. Fast rewind? No. So I'm gonna look at material and go here. And this is material UI. So again, normally I would do all this stuff before recording the video, but I wanted a more chill video today. I've actually already recorded 2 videos today. I'll upload this one tomorrow. I know what the button I want looks like. Here, it was called replay. That's what I wanted. So we have my reset button. I'm gonna leave it as reset because reset is what I want to call it. I don't need a good reason. And now I have my scaffold here. So I can give it an app bar, and the app bar will be an app bar. And I can't remember if I have any kind of custom thing on my app bar. I don't believe so. My leading is going to be an empty text because I don't want anything there. And the actions, so remember the action is going to be a list of widgets, which is going to be a series of buttons over here. Now I only want 1 widget, but you can have as many as you want. And I'm going to have a reset button. And I'm going to import this. And I named it the wrong thing. Well, I forgot to rename it. It's more correct. And then I'm going to have reset button here. Import this, fix imports. That's all fine. And what do I need? I'll start with the size of 50. And I'll give it a, can't remember what else I need. The unpressed, that was it. So for the unpressed, I'm actually just going to give it an empty function for now, because I want to see what it looks like. Because I wanted to see, you know, this stuff. And I'm going to give my app bar background color of theme.of_context.background color. There we go. This is way too big, and that's why I wanted to do this first. 30. Difficult decisions. Too small. I think 40 is okay, but now I think it's too far, it's too close to the edge here. So I'm going to wrap this in a widget, and the widget's going to be a container. In fact, a padding. By the way, if you guys didn't already know, a padding is actually just a wrapping around a container. It's just a container where it's more, you know, it's kind of half done for you, if that makes sense. But I'm going to use const edge insets dot only, and I'm going to put it on right. And let's try 10. It's probably going to be a bit more than that. It's not too bad, but let's try 15. That's good. That's good. Yeah, that looks fine. So now we have a tiny bit of difficulty, however, because for my onPressed, I need to get the state, but I'm not declaring the state until, never mind, I declared the state up here. I was going to say that I didn't declare the state until here, because I thought I did it a different way. But no, I declared it up here, so that makes this super simple. State.resets, like that, and there we go. So now let's see, moment of truth, if this works correctly. I'm doing a hard refresh, play, right? When I pause it, when I reset it, I expect this to be reset, but additionally, I expect it to stop and, you know, not keep going. You can see here, stopped. Here it goes back to the screen, and this is back to how it should be. Additionally, I'm not 100% sure what behavior we're going to get here. The behavior I want and the behavior I think we have is that when I change this and I reset it, it should go back to whatever values the user has put in, rather than going back to 25. So let's try. So my start button does not work after doing that. So let's go to my timer state and figure out why. Probably I didn't set... So that's weird, it's not behaving the way I expect it to. So real quick debugging, I'm going to check if it's actually getting into this if statement. I'm in the if statement. I'm going to refresh it, because I can see starting timer here. We're going to do a hard restart. Do that, play. So this tsw.isRunning is coming as showing true. So that means I forgot to stop it. tsw.stop, tsw.start, tsw.reset, but I probably did not do .stop. I thought that the reset should stop it for me, but maybe I was mistaken. So I'm pressing the wrong button. I'm trying to get tsw.stop. Let's see if this says, yeah, it resets the elapsed count to 0, and it even says this method does not stop or start the stopwatch. Well, I thought it did. I didn't read the documentation properly, and that is why that was not behaving the way I expected it to behave. So now when I do this, reset, and now should keep working. And we also want to double check that we can change this to a custom value. And notice I don't need the extra 0, that's fine. So that's working. And when I reset it, it goes back to the exact value which I want. Exactly the way that I wrote it. So that is all great. So now my reset is working as well. And I'm thinking if I forgot anything, because I always forget something. Yeah, I remember what I was thinking. I was thinking that when this is paused, so I changed this text to be bigger because I wanted it bigger to show here, but I think it looks a little bit ridiculous so large over here, and it's really bothering me that this doesn't have the extra 0. That's correct. Okay, let's leave that. So what I'm going to have to do in this section is give it a different theme. So I have headline 1 here. I'm going to create headline 2 and have a text style. And it's going to be almost the same, except my font size is going to be much smaller, 40. That's what I had before. And yeah, I'll leave the font weight the same as before, W600, and color colors not white. And by the way, you guys might hear the rain outside. It's raining quite heavily. Hopefully the microphone isn't picking it up, but if it does, I apologize. So going back to our timer screen, this was where? I can't remember. Here. So I'm going to change headline 1 here to headline 2. And I need to do the same thing here and here. There we go. That looks good. That looks really good. Now, of course, you'll notice we've done all of this for the time screen, but we have not yet done it, and it's crashed. We have not yet done it for our stopwatch screen. And the reason it's crashed, by the way, is because we changed the play button and we didn't update the values in stopwatch screen. So actually the timer screen is more complicated than the stopwatch screen. So I'm gonna pause this video for now. In fact, I'm gonna end this video and I'm gonna challenge you guys to do the same thing, to make the pause, unpause and reset buttons work correctly, and then update the stopwatch screen to use all those correct buttons. And in the next video, I'm gonna go through and do it with you guys. And after that, I'm actually gonna show you something a bit interesting about our design choice, and we might have to move some other widgets around, but I don't want to spoil it for now. So that's going to be it for me for right now, and I will see you guys next time. For myself, for now, Ovidius, I am out.